Miss Joan, do I have a quorum?
Yes, ma'am, you do.
All right, so with that said, Miss Joan, I'm going to call the meeting to order.
Okay, you have 7.
Seven, Rita's not here?
No, I don't see her.
Oh, okay. It is my honor and privilege to call the Committee of the Whole Board of Ed meeting on September 14th at 6:04 to order. And the first order of business after that is I would like to ask for someone to give me a motion to approve the Committee of the Whole meeting minutes. Easy for you to say. August 17th. I got Lee. Can I have a second?
Second.
I got Rosemary for a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the acceptance of the Committee of the Whole meeting minutes on August 17th, please say aye or raise.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, those opposed? The motion has carried. So Dr. Grenier, before we go into the update of the school, I'm actually wondering if we actually wanted to just switch places with you so that our DEI people, and it's so good to see you, by the way. Yay, yay, yay. I'm waving to you all. I also would like to, this is a regular Committee of the Whole meeting, and that I'm asking that we add an agenda item to our meeting tonight. And I need to have, I think 3/4 agreement to that. And the agenda item that I'm adding is goes more along with the executive session that we held, which is about the lawsuit with the Magnet Middle School funding. And we have had a request for us to look at going into having a co-counsel with, I don't want to pronounce their name wrong. Is it Lambda?
Yes.
They are willing to become co-counsel with our current attorney on this matter, but we need to have a discussion. She's not available to us to come in through Zoom, but she is available by text. Mike will be able to text any questions. That's going to be the agenda item, and I just need to know whether we people agree to add that to our agenda.
So move.
I have a movement that we can add
Second.
that, and I have a second.
Second.
Rita, is there any further discussion about this? Hearing none. All those in favor of adding this as an agenda item for tonight's meeting, please say aye or indicate for me.
Aye.
Do I have an oppose? Do I have an abstain? This motion has carried, and we will add that towards the end before adjournment, I promise you. Okay, thank you very much. And so people were okay with this swapping and just doing the DEI first so that they can.
Well, actually, Rick Norris is here.
Oh.
And he has a brief report about the middle school. So I request that we have him report out.
That's fine.
So Rick.
Okay, I guess that's my cue. Hi, it's wonderful to come talk to you folks again. I always enjoy talking to the board and bringing information, in this case, good information on the middle school. I mean, we're open. We have a certificate of occupancy, which we gained last week. And I was happy to see the students, the teachers tour the school. I did several walkthroughs and talked to numerous teachers and other staff members, and things seem to be going pretty well. We had it was sort of a difficult session getting this thing completed this year because of the whole COVID thing. We had several items that didn't get completed because of that. One of them is the lighting the black box theater, which they're continuing to work on. That was particularly difficult. We had a couple of the science rooms have temporary countertops, if you will, without the sinks that the other floor has. So there's a few of those items that sort of suffered from that. We had one material item which was really unsatisfactory when it was installed, which is gymnasium floor. That was also, the beginning of that was delayed, as was the bleachers. So that expects to be completed by the middle of October and back, ready for use. All the other things in that gym are installed, and it's going to be a phenomenal facility. Once, for those that haven't seen it, you ought to take a look at it. Other things that we knew were going to be completed a little bit later were the softball field and the all-purpose field, which we're putting sod on to make those available in the spring if the sod does well throughout the winter season and the very early spring. So that would make that more usable. The Fitch parking lot work continued and it was completed, and we had a request from the principal, excuse me, for a special education driveway, which is getting approved by planning now, and we'll start work on that. So if people see a fence along the northern portion or around the northern portion of the school there, that's what that's all about. But as I said, we had really some difficulties. For example, I talked about the science rooms. That company actually wouldn't ship. The casework in there was coming from Pennsylvania. They wouldn't ship because the state was closed. So I think the team, along with Dr. Grenier and Sam's support, you know, we really did a good job putting this thing together. There was a question before somebody asked about line striping. We're ready to do that. We've had the change order. It was requested by the principal that it be put off until the gym's ready. So we'll look at that a little bit later in the season. Other than that, things are great over there. The building came out beautiful. I think Mike can attest to that. And those of you that are going to come Thursday, I'll be walking with some of you or RTM members or council members, depending on how we split up the tours there. But I think you'll find it's a great facility. I'd be happy to answer any questions about that. And if you give me a couple seconds too, I can talk about the elementary schools just very, very briefly. Hi, oh, Elizabeth's got a hand up.
Yeah, Rick,
Please.
I just was wondering, could you say again, what happened with the gym floor? Did you say that it was installed?
There was a problem with the material on the gym floor. When it was laid down, there was some severe curvature of the flooring material,
Oh,
and it was not acceptable for what we were paying for it. And of course, if we had put the stripes on it, everybody was saying, why is the floor down? Because it's all crooked, and you got these stripes that really exacerbate the problem when you take a look at it.
mm-hmm.
So that about a third of the floor has been removed, and we're waiting for the new material to come in.
Okay, so it was not satisfactory, and that's why
Yeah, it was
we had to.
defective, basically, yeah.
Wow. And you said there's a tour on Thursday?
Yeah, let me
I'm
explain.
like,
The RTM and the town council had not toured the building, so I invited them. And when Rick was talking, I went there today on my own little tour. And if board members, we have plenty of room on the tour. If board members are interested, every time I go back, every couple of days, I'm amazed at what they've done. So if board members, it's going to be 4 o'clock Thursday the 17th. If you're interested, we would love to have you come because the interior is really quite remarkable. And I'd like the media center is up and running, and the cafeteria is finished. So it'd probably be about an hour, probably about 4 to 5:30. And then we're going to ask you to go sign the beam at 5:30, which is over in the parking lot, right across from the town hall annex. So we're going to try to kill two birds with one stone. But I would really encourage you to come. It is a gorgeous building.
yeah, it's phenomenal the way the teachers have moved in the short period of time they've had and made the spaces their own. You know, the schools taking shape, and of course, it looks like it's coming to life. As Mike was talking about the beam, that beam, as we did for the middle school, this one's from Cutler. Unfortunately, we can't do the same expansive kind of ceremony we did before, so I've been talking with the superintendent about potentially doing a video thing on that, but we do have the beam available over here in the Public Works parking area. People are interested in signing it, so that would be great. And that would go up. That last beam would probably be put in place around the 25th of September. So steel on Cutler is really moving. They're moving very well on the project, moving ahead, putting up walls, doing parking lot work. They're in a similar situation at West Side. We've suffered a little bit on the steel with the COVID thing on West Side because the steel was coming from Canada basically. And so we're a little bit behind Cutler, but we're not in a position where we can't make up that time. So they are moving, putting up steel, doing a lot of site work over there. Demo of the buildings is going on. I mean, Cutler will probably be, I'm sorry, West Side will probably be down within the week. And Cutler is coming down also. So it's interesting. We had an older gentleman that keeps wandering on the site over Cutler. And I have a picture of him sitting on the back stoop on the north end of the building while they're tearing the building down at the other end. So we're trying to convince that fellow that he shouldn't be walking on the site because it's dangerous to him, you know. So
You've told me several times now, and I'm going to knock it off.
Oh, okay. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Like I said, we're progressing well, and for me, it's 1 down and 2 to go here.
Rita.
Rick, I noticed the softball field
Yes.
that's on Long Hill, on Groton Long
Right,
Point
right.
Road. What type of fencing are you going to have to make sure the balls aren't hit out? I mean, what were you planning on doing there?
We weren't doing any other fencing than what we have because we do have the fence up above on the road. We do have the stone wall, and we do have the fence at the field, which is probably higher than the 3 or 4 foot fence you normally see on those softball fields.
But and when I looked at it, it looked like home plate. Like if you hit a home run, could it go over that fence?
It's gonna have to be a Willie Mays type home run to clear that fence and get it onto the road. Not that we don't have players maybe that could do that, but it's
yeah. Okay, thank you.
And we'll certainly keep an eye on it if we need to do something. There's space that if we
So
have
you'll
to
be
do
able to see the games from that field. I mean, from the road.
from the road, yeah. I mean, the only thing you can't see from the road is the school from the Groton Long Point side, but you see these 3 tremendous fields extending down there. So,
yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Other
yes. Is there going to be a sign where the Grasso Tech sign is to?
Yes, there is. We're working on that. We have it in because we have to get a variance to be able to put a bigger sign with the electronics on it. So that's going to be heard by the Zoning Board of Appeals in October. So it's probably going to be later in the year before it gets constructed. But yeah, the plans are in the works for that.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions for Rick?
Okay.
Rick, thank you so much for your diligence around all this.
Yeah, thank you for allowing me to share the information with you. I hope to come sometime again on the elementary schools.
Yeah.
So
we'll see you Thursday night.
Okay. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Right. And so it goes back into the Groton, the opening of the school. One of the things that Mike and I were having a conversation about this morning was there's so much stuff that's kind of going on, and like in-depth stuff that's going on. And so one of the things that I was wondering, that instead of like we wanted to hear about technology, right, and how the virtual stuff is going, is that maybe instead of having Dennis kind of come in after doing his and his team working all day and what have you, is that it gets added to our board notes, but it also gets added to the website so that everyone has a chance to sort of get that information, and to do that, throughout all the things. That Dr. Grenier would still do his sort of bullet points about what's going on, but that in-depth stuff I'm not saying it really correctly, and I apologize about that, but instead of having the in-depth stuff happen just for us, that it would be useful for all of our community to kind of get that and have that up in the up on the website. That's just
Kim,
my thought.
Kim, what are you talking about exactly? I don't quite understand where you're going.
Okay, thank you, Rita. Let me see if I can try take two. So we have not been, it's our normal September is to think about how schools are opening, right? Because that's what we do in September. But
Yes.
since the pandemic, we have been hearing a lot about what our different areas of our school is doing for our keeping our schools either open or virtual. And that we've been having people come in on a regular basis and kind of giving their update on what's been happening, you know, technology, curriculum, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. My thought process is that information just kind of happen all the time, either through board notes and also on the website, so that the community can have it, versus having these people kind of come in on a weekly basis, almost kind of giving us information about what's happening during the pandemic. That Dr. Grenier would always give us, and Susan would give us, you know, the rendition of sort of what's been happening, but those in-depth conversations, it might be nice to have on the website, you know, this is what's happening virtually, and this is sort of what's happening, you know, if your child is experiencing this, or this. So I was just trying to think about ways of not having our agendas always just on that, considering the fact that there's so much going on. So I was just presenting that to the board.
I would appreciate it though, that our regular board meeting in September, if we could go in depth about some of these school openings, not just have it on the website, so that people could, you know, listen as we do. And
Right.
sometimes, you know, you can't ask questions as easily when it's just on a website.
I don't disagree with you, but once again, I was just making sure that we had all this information as COVID had first hit us, and so that we knew what was going on, and not that this is part of our way, but this is now part of our way, and just how to make sure that we allow the staff to do what they need to be doing. But absolutely, it would make sense for a regular board meeting for a more in-depth conversation.
Thanks.
Kim?
Yes, Liz.
I'm a little fuzzy about this too. So let me just clarify. Are you like saying, well, instead of doing technology, we put it out on the web that says, you know, our technology, okay, there are X amount of Chromebooks that are still in process, they haven't arrived yet. That type of information, or?
Yeah, Liz, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make this fuzzy, and I don't want to spend any more time on it. I was not trying to make this any more confusing than it is. I just was trying to, every single committee of the whole since March, we've made sure that this discussion about how schools are going and bringing in the people that are responsible for that into the board meeting so that we can hear from them. I was just thinking of backing that part out, and having an update, but that not needing that sort of in-depth thing, and any in-depth thing that we should be getting, I think should go on the website, because many people don't turn on into the committee of the whole or the regular board meetings, but they might have more access to the website. Not trying to make it a big deal. If we can just move, that wasn't my intent. And so we'll just move on. So sorry.
It sounds more confusing.
It does sound more confusing. It was not confusing in my brain, and so I apologize for it being confusing. I should probably just stay talking to myself in my brain. Dr. Grenier, can you just give us any more information about how schools opening went?
Oh, the school opening, Susan and I have been visiting the schools, and the first thing that we'll assure you is once the children showed up, I think all the hypothetical anxiety went away. And we have been in classrooms and talking with children and talking with teachers, and seems like it's going certainly the in-person is coming more and more. I was talking to Mr. Davis today. More and more of the kids are actually coming from what we thought was going to be remote, that they're coming in person. We're going to do, Susan and I are going to do a full report next week on the distance learning. We just want to be sure students have connectivity, have their computers. So we put a nice program in place for tracking all this, as we spoke about this morning, Kim. We're gonna make sure that every single child in the district is connecting and doing the work that we expect of them, or we will figure out why and see if it's a technology problem or perhaps some sort of problem that a social worker could address. But I would say at this point, we've had cohort A and B at all the schools except the middle school last week, and then cohort A, including at the middle school today. And from what I understand, it went very well. Certainly the drop off in the morning went well. The pickup in the afternoon, which was what we were concerned with when a lot of cars are showing up. I think Mr. Davis probably knows a lot of cars showed up, and we're gonna, we'll keep on working out that. But Mr. Bass said probably has 75 cars lined up, which is a lot of cars, and we need to address that. But overall, I think that the kids are appreciative of the building. The staff certainly is, and like I said, I really hope anyone who's available for an hour or so Thursday afternoon at 4, you will see a very different school than whenever we took our tour in August. It is getting to be a polished off jewel. It's really a delight.
And Mr. Davis, are you in your new office right now?
Yes, I am. I'm actually still releasing some students outside. So the line is still going.
No.
That was a joke that was delivered with very good,
Yes.
very good straight man. That's excellent.
All right.
So Dr. Grenier, how is the high school? How are the high school classes, the numbers of students in the classes?
Those classes, we've done everything we could to try to keep the classes under 12. But there are classes, a few, that are, I would say, average class size is probably 6 to 10 by cohort. I was there the other day, and I happened to be there during passing time, and I was so impressed. The students, it's a one-way traffic pattern. The students basically were silent, and
Wow.
and they were going around the school, and I think the online learning I think it's a little easier with, of course, with older students. But the students and staff that I spoke to, it really seems like it's going extremely well. And on Monday, I'll give you a briefing on the saga of sports, which is the next issue we have to deal with. But starting on Monday, actually, all the sports teams get together. They can actually do, as opposed to conditioning and skill drills, they can do whole team activities. So I think everyone's looking forward to that. Rick did not mention, but we arranged for the synthetic surface field to be lined for field hockey today. So the field hockey team is all set. And I know Jeff Katecki is working with Vin Vecchione to coordinate the times for practices and games and so forth. So it's going really well at the high school as well.
So wait, I just had a thought. So you're saying all the teams are getting together. Is that all the teams except football?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The football team is still allowed to continue conditioning because the CIAC is going to work with coaches to do some sort of alternative, like flag football and maybe like a powerlifting thing for the linemen or something. But yeah, they haven't been eliminated from sports. It's just the full contact football will not be held.
Thank you.
And they're still in cohorts.
Okay.
So I misread the agenda, and I'm sorry about that, folks, because actually the next thing that's online is the DEI. And so that was my bad. And that's what happens when you have someone who isn't thinking. But so Dr. Grenier, I would love for us to move to that agenda item, and then maybe you and Susan can close up any other conversations about the opening of school.
That'd be great.
Can I just start by saying, and then Dr. Grenier, you can introduce however you want to introduce, is I read the data report and the DEI report, and what a class act. And just really what a class act, a great piece of document. Yeah.
Well, let me introduce, we have three of the key leaders here, Jamal Davis, Ada Allen, and Nadine Macklin. And just to give a little background, when all the social justice protests were beginning this spring, it occurred to, certainly to the chairman, and then I shared this with the board, that part of a fundamental aspect of our reopening, amidst all the committees that we had for instruction and finances and facilities and so forth, we really needed to make a very strong statement. And the strongest statement that I thought we could possibly do was to create a committee. If you remember, we had 7 committees in the roadmap, reopening roadmap. And we added an 8th, and Mr. Davis will tell you a little bit, as Ms. Allen and Macklin will, and tell you about the unbelievable response that we've had to that committee. But just to set the stage a little bit, when they started their work, I said to them, I think the community, certainly the board, is going to be very receptive to this, because there has been a foundation laid for the DEI work, which has been going on for quite some time, and I think the committee is going to really just carry that forward. And the first thing is, I pointed out to them that the foundation of the Groton 2020 plan is equity. That we took those 2 middle schools and we put them together into one to make sure that those children, middle school children, had an equitable and high quality education. And then when we took the 2 middle schools and created elementary schools, not only did the board create 2 magnet elementary schools to address racial imbalances, it actually created a 5th school, Charles Barnum, so that by this time next year, this will be a 100% parent choice district. That is to say, parents are going to be able to choose any one of the 5 elementary schools as a choice option. And then, of course, the middle school children will go to the middle school and the high school children to the high school. So all of that work, which has really been enormous, has really gone forward. One of the big advertising points of the Groton 2020 plan that I always tried to highlight was we were gonna stop redistricting of neighborhoods to achieve racial balance. We were going to use school choice. And I know the committee has done some really good work and made some terrific suggestions about how we make sure all of our elementary schools are going to be welcoming to the children, which will really be the basis of this. And I'll just mention 2 other things. We have been supporting student voice in the matter of social justice for a long time in the district. We have a Black Student Union group. We have the More Than Words group. We have the Gay Straight Alliance. So students at the high school, and I'm pretty sure there's interest at the middle school for a More Than Words program, and there's been funding allocated for that. That is going to serve us well, because the students have been voicing their concerns and taking actions to support equity for a long time. And the last thing I'll say is Dr. Ackerman and Dr. Mitchell have been on the ground floor of the Martin Luther King program that has just been throughout southeastern Connecticut, has been a bedrock of supporting students of color to go forward. And I know we have some presentations coming tomorrow. So I'm very excited, but I think if you look at the big picture of the Groton community, what I said to Mr. Davis, Ms. Allen, and Macklin is that in 2016, this community voted in support of this huge referendum, the largest in Connecticut state history, really to bring equity and equality and educational excellence to our students. So having said that, let me introduce Jamal Davis, who was the initial point of contact that I had, and this committee has really taken off, and as Chairman Watson said, has done fabulous things. So, Mr. Davis.
Oh, thank you. How's everyone doing tonight? Doing well, I hope.
We're enjoying the jokes.
That's good. Hopefully I have some more as we go through this report. It's just exciting to have the opportunity to share with you the report that was accumulation of over 100 different members who are very passionate about establishing equity throughout the district. I want to begin by introducing Nadine Macklin and Ada Allen, who co-chaired the task force in the work that we're doing. But I think we have to acknowledge everybody that was involved. As I mentioned, there was over 100 members. Those members represented all levels of school, so the elementary, the middle, the high school. It represented community members. It represented the board members, central office members. So it truly, to me, we talk about surveys, we talk about focus groups to get a feel of where people are. Well, we got it through these individuals. We empowered them, we provided platforms for them to speak, and they have spoken. So it is my hope, it is our hope that you really listen to what they have to say and be willing to move forward in the initiatives that we are going to share. So how do we get to this point? Well, we're at this point because we are facing a dual crisis. We are all familiar with the crisis of pandemic COVID-19. And as a district, as Dr. Grenier has mentioned, we committed to that. We asked questions about what do our students need, and we committed to it. We provided funding, we developed plans, and at this point, our schools are educating our students within our schools, as well as remotely. The other crisis deals with racial inequality, social injustice. It is my hope, it is our hope, that we are as committed and devoted as we are with as we have been with COVID-19, with that of these racial inequalities. As Dr. Grenier stated, COVID-19 and the senseless death of George Floyd and many others has exposed and exacerbated many of the inequalities and injustices that continue to perpetuate many of our institutions, such as health, housing, criminal justice, and education. In response to the growing unrest caused by these events, Superintendent Dr. Grenier assembled a diversity, equity, and inclusion task force and other committees to develop a reopening plan. On June 18th, almost, to this date, we see that the DI committee held its first meeting, and as I mentioned, over 100 members. During that meeting, the committee felt several initiatives or steps needed to be taken. One, build agents of change, organize into subcommittees, develop an equity statement and mission statement, and write a strategic plan for for year one of a 5-year improvement plan. Today, we're going to talk about each one of those initiatives. In terms of agents of change, we have committed and devoted individuals who were very passionate, and from basically June to August, worked digitally to create a plan that you have in front of you that you can look at. And it was led by facilitators. Now, I wish I could read off every member who participated, but I will share the facilitators because their commitment continued the work that we started in June. So in the Awareness and Action Committee, facilitators Jennifer Carter, Carrie Carter, Sarah Kelly, and Erica Watson. Collaboration and Community Relations, Adam Diskin and Sarah Whiteley. Communication, Jessica Parker. Data Analysis, Alfredo Axlau. Education, Alicia Ross. Recruitment and Retention and Hiring, Renita Casey, Liz Porter. Student Voice, Aaron McGuire, Carly Rising. And Teaching and Learning, Carrie Leaf. We felt that we had to establish what was our duty, what was our purpose. First, we wanted to identify and confront racial inequalities and disparities. We want to be mindful of intersectionality in all the forms of inequalities and injustice. We wanted to foster critical consciousness individually and collectively. We want to champion anti-racist policies and practices. We wanted to grow social capital through partnership with families and community members, agencies, and organizations. We felt it was our duty to advocate for policies that actively recruit, hire, retain educators of color and educators who demonstrate cultural competencies. We felt it was our duty to seek out marginalized voices and perspectives. We felt it was our duty to educate our community. And we felt it was our duty to use data and collaboration to create sustainability. We did this in all 8 of the subcommittees. As I mentioned, they are education, awareness and action, communication, data analysis, collaboration and community relations, student voice, recruitment, hiring and retention, and teaching and learning. Throughout the summer, these subcommittees met to develop and they developed individual plans. Those plans are available in the report through the hyperlink. On August 26th, the entire DIE committee reconvened to review the plan and prioritize actions. The subcommittee's finance recommendations were then consolidated and aligned to create a unified system-wide DEI 5-year strategic plan. That 5-year strategic plan focused on year 1, education, becoming informed and building awareness. Year 2, we want to solidify buy-in and initial dismantling of policies, practices. Year 3, we want systemic change. We want to dismantle systematic practices and policies. And in year 4, we want to look back at what we've done, reflect on it, and take next steps. The plan focuses on building strong relationships and partnerships, culturally relevant and responsive pedagogy, equitable hiring practices, empowering students and families, and continual of a personal and institutional reflection, all accumulated with professional development. One of the most important pieces is the need to articulate what we are about, and we felt that we needed to adopt an equity statement, and it is our hope that the board would consider adopting an equity statement or adopting this equity statement, and I will read it to you. All members of Groton Public School community will acknowledge that systems of racial and economic injustice do exist in our schools, and they must be dismantled. No longer will we tolerate practices, policies, and systems that uphold and perpetuate systems of oppression. We are committed to fundamentally changing what we believe about identities, conditions, educational outcome disparities, and their relationship with inequality. As a Groton public school community, we will respect and embrace values and implement policies and practices that ensure that all people, especially those who have been historically marginalized based on race, ethnicity, disability, sexual orientation, gender, age, socioeconomic status, immigration status, educational status, or religion, have equitable opportunities. The mission, we feel that Groton Public School is committed to cultivating an environment of diversity, equity, and inclusiveness to ensure all groups feel valued, actively engaged, and empowered. Through continuous improvement principles, we strive to foster culturally responsive teaching and learning practices and anti-racist policies and processes that ensure fairness, access, and achievement of our multicultural population in which we serve. We believe that these two statements should guide all the work that we do in the district. Mark, do I have the ability to share my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. It's important for us to really get a true understanding of why this work is important. So we wanted to demonstrate through data where the disparities exist. Now, this is just a brief summary. We wanted to make sure we had about 30 minutes, but there are some other data points that we should be looking at. So let me begin with the first slide. So when we look at Groton Public Schools, one thing that really stands out is that we have
Do you think that's
almost
Kyle
about
or
50%
Kylie?
white and non-white population. Our white student population is 53.7%, but as you can see, our non-white population is a mixture of different groups. For our largest population, Hispanic and Latinos, 21.6%, followed by our Black or African American, 7.2%, Asian, 6.2%, two or more races, 9.8%, and then we see that our smaller groups are American Indian, 1%, and Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islanders, 0.5%. If we scroll down just a little bit, what we can see here is a disparity with regards to discipline in comparison to that of enrollment. So if we look at our American Indian population, okay, this is district-wide, and this data was taken from EdSite, and this was the 2018-2019 report. We see that 22.7% make up the discipline. And again, there's a disparity. That's up 21.7% from that of the percentage, which was at 1%. If we look at African Americans, we see up 8.5 percentage points to 15.7 from that of 7.2, the overall population. In comparison to the Hispanic, Latino, and white, we see that there is disproportionality, but going the opposite way. The Hispanics are dropping 11.3% from their overall population to 10.3%. Two or more are dropping 2.3% to 7.5%. And we see a very drastic difference with our white population, which was 53.7%, dropping down to 4.8%, a 48.9% droppage. So again, what this shows us is that American Indian and Black discipline compositions are 21.7 times and 2 times that of their total enrollment respectively. Whereas our Hispanic Latino composition is 0.476 times, and our to a race are 0.76 times, and our white is 0.089 times that of their total. So we can see there is a disparity. And so when we see these disparities, we have to start to ask some questions why that is. If we can go to the next slide, please. We can also look at disparities in terms of achievement. Our ELA scores on our SBAC, we can see that 69.2% of our white students are at or above a level 3. And then we start to see that drop in terms of Hispanics to 42.7, Blacks 39.6, and Asians, we see an increase of 74.3. We see similar levels in terms of the discrepancy with that of math. While our math numbers are lower, we see again that 56.7% for our whites, compare that to 3.5% of our Hispanics, 29% for our Blacks, and 67.6% for our Asians. Now, I think it's very important that we don't want to look at our white population as a benchmark. Okay, that's not the purpose of this data. The purpose of this data is to show, again, there is a disparity in terms of the level of students reaching at or above. In the last slide, so I just went over discipline disparity, achievement disparity, and then we also have a disparity in terms of our educators to our student population. As I mentioned to you, our student population is almost 50%, 49% basically, here, actually it's probably about 47%. But what we see with our teachers, we're about 9%, almost 10%. So again, it's this disparity. Now, there could be a lot of reasons to that, but one can question, is there a correlation between our teacher-student ratio and the disparities that we see in the other two areas? We need to ask that question. And so you can, thank you, Dr. Grenier, you can stop sharing that. Thank you. And so what we really want to focus on, today is about our outcomes. Why are we here? Well, we're here because we need your support.
Uh-oh.
We're here because we need your support. And our subcommittees have developed some outcomes and board requests. I just shared with you the data and how that relates. In terms of the awareness and action, we feel that it's important that we adopt an equity and mission statement to foster a shared understanding of DEI and commitment to the 5-year plan, that we establish a leadership role and responsibility that oversees DEI initiatives, such as the implementation and monitoring of the DEI 5-year plan. I want us to make sure we understand that this was more of an ad hoc group, a temporary group. So we want, we think it's important that we establish a committee that would continue this work, establish a DEI policy council that would advise the superintendent and the Board of Education at least quarterly on DEI actions such as recruitment and hiring, retention, equity policies, curriculum and instruction, community partnerships, family relations, professional development, and student voice. And we feel that to continue this work, we need to allocate resources to support DEI strategies. The student voice felt we need to create a K-12 opportunity for empowering student voice to reach more students. I'm going to pass it to Nadine, and she'll share what the other committees are asking of the board.
Thank you, Jamal. So for the education subcommittee, their outcome statement reads, if these practices, and when we talk about the practices, we're looking at the practices that are rooted in our guiding beliefs for educational equity for all. If these practices are implemented, then the staff, children, and parents of Groton will be able to accurately define what racism is, the impact that racism has on our community, and the ways that they can facilitate anti-racist practices. So what we're asking or requesting from the board is that moving forward, we're able to provide staff and administration with resources to present during faculty meetings to educate staff about racism and anti-racism practices. We're also asking for administrators to support teachers and administrators who would like to attend professional development outside of Groton Public Schools with the purpose of expanding their knowledge base on diversity, equity, and inclusion. For the communication subcommittee, their outcome statement reads, if communication efforts such as a newsletter and social media metrics showed increased online engagement and increased participation in DEI actions, then they will consider the communication committee's efforts to be successful in helping to create awareness and participation from the school community. The ultimate goal is to see a positive change in attitudes and behaviors so we can get as many people on board in an effort to foster anti-racist efforts and work towards inclusive outcomes, and the communication efforts will be a part of that ongoing long-term strategy to realize this goal. So specifically under communication, what we are asking for is just echoing what Jamal just stated, just including the DEI mission and equity statement on the Groton Public Schools website. In addition, adding a tab on the Groton Public Schools website for DEI to disseminate information to not only school staff, but also to the community at large. And lastly, the Collaboration and Community Relations Subcommittee, their outcome statement reads, if we compile a list of available resources and training throughout our community using the DEI lens, create trainings within our school community, and assess the needs and concerns from the perspectives of parents, educators, and students, then more community members will have a better understanding of and exposure to the principles of DEI to better meet the needs of our students and families. Specifically, the Collaboration and Community Relations Subcommittee is asking for Groton Public Schools to commit to routinely monitoring student needs to ensure equitable access to educational resources, collaboration with the Curriculum and Instruction Department to strengthen the integration of equity into our curriculum development process. And this is actually something that has evolved. At first, we were talking about adding a DEI perspective to the Mental Health Summit, but it's evolved from that, and we would like to have or host Groton's first Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Summit, where we can build a bridge from the school community into Groton at large. And I will now pass it on to Ada.
Thank you, Nadine. I'm going to share Teaching and Learning Subcommittee's outcome. And that committee shared, if teachers engage in culturally responsive practices, then students will feel a connection to the learning environment and succeed socially, emotionally, and academically. And the ask for is to continue professional development on culturally responsive pedagogy and an expansion of school libraries that include literature that reflects diversity, equity, and inclusion. And lastly, the hiring, recruitment, hiring, and retention. The outcome statement is, if we focus on targeted aspects of the goals, recruitment, hiring, retention, then we should see an increase in diverse educators by at least 1%. This increase in diversity of our staff will support current research that says teachers of color boost the academic performance of students of color, including improved reading and math test scores, improved graduation rates, and increases in aspirations to attend college. Students of color and white students report having positive perceptions of their teachers of color, including feeling cared for and academically challenged. And this is from the Learning Policy Institute. The ask for is to evaluate current recruitment and hiring process. Next, establish a non-biased application process that includes administrative buy-in to the importance of this initiative. 3, require unconscious bias training as a prerequisite to participating on a hiring committee. And lastly, to recommit to an educator pathway to encourage student interest in the field of education. So that concludes our 8 subcommittees' work and their outcome statements. But before we close, I would like to share an email that I recently received from a former student that I got her permission to share. And it reads, "Hi, Mrs. Allen. I'm not sure if you remember me, but my name is Deanna Singleton. You were my 4th and 5th grade teacher at Eastern Point and Catherine Kolnaski, and my sister Kayla's 5th grade teacher as well. I'm also not sure if you'll get this email, but I've actually wanted to reach out for a long time. I hope you and your family are well. Last I could find, you were vice principal of Mary Morrison for a couple years at least. Congratulations. A little about me. I graduated from Fitch in 2016 and attended Massachusetts College of Pharmacy and Health Services in Boston, where I got my BSN. I'm 21 now, and I've been a nurse for a little more than a year. It's a calling I've pretty much always known I was meant for. I work on a rehab floor of a nursing home in Groton, and I love it. I got my first apartment in December, and I help take care of my mom on my days off. I just wanted to reach out and say thank you. You were one of maybe 2 teachers that taught me lessons I was too young to learn. I was shy and quiet and almost ashamed of who I was. But you were beautiful and a dancer and my favorite teacher. I admired you so much. I didn't know it at the time, but you were one of the first people in my life who helped me see that I don't have to choose between being Black, beautiful, smart, or successful. I'm not sure if it was even something you were trying to do, but I've realized with everything going on in the world right now, I need to acknowledge the people who have helped shape who I am. I hope I haven't upset you by telling you any of this. I know there's a lot of tension in our world right now, but I am proud of what I've done in my life so far, and you were a part of that. Thank you for inspiring me. Love, Deanna." I share this with you because it really is relevant to what to what the work of DEI and the work of all of the subcommittees. And I was humbled by the email because I was having a really rough day, and it was what I needed to continue. So I just wanted to close with that email.
Thank you.
Any questions for us? Hopefully we have a lot.
Nobody's going to top that email.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
I'm just really proud that we are a courageous district, that we are really kind of coming together and trying to figure it out. You know, I've done my own work, not enough, but I'm doing my work. And, you know, Brene Brown always talks about, I'm not here to be right, I'm here to get it right. And I really sort of feel that that's sort of what I am left with. We have a lot of stuff that's kind of has happened to this district in this past week, specifically on the board. And I love the fact that we're dealing with that, and we're also coming into a DEI presentation about the work that has been done and that will be continued to be done. There's a lot to digest here. And I also want to make sure that this plan kind of goes beyond, way beyond my tenure here on the board and everyone else's tenure on the board. And so I just sort of feel like the board needs to kind of come together and kind of sit and kind of say, you know, this is what we embrace. This is what, you know, in a sense, I kind of want to not rubber stamp it because I don't want it to be put on a shelf, right? Like I want it to be, I want to be able to say that this is part of our sort of document about how we moved forward as a district, and that these are some of the things that we are employing as part of our moving forward as an anti-racist district. And so that believes in inclusion and that believes in equity. And so I just don't know the paths to go do that, Jamal. But that for me, I'm humbled by your work. And I am also just humbled by the courage that over 100 people took on their own time to kind of think about what does diversity, what is equity, and what does inclusion look in our district.
Thank you.
Rita.
Muted, Rita.
Wait a minute. Okay, the board received a very insightful email from a former student who graduated in 2020, Kyle Thaxton.
Yep.
And I'm going to quote a little of this because it was very powerful to me, and it's something that has been something I've been extremely concerned about for my time on the board. So I quote, "I wish to share another story with you before I close. In my junior year, I helped organize a student project with the Fitch Newspaper Club to examine the racial statistics within Fitch's AP, IB, and honors classrooms. I was shocked and disappointed when crunching the numbers, we learned that there is a huge racial gap within these highly esteemed university level classes. There is a lack of racial representation for students of color within AP classes, and even more dramatically within the IB classes." And he also mentioned that an even more interesting point to share is that for non-white students in AP classes, they were statistically less likely in comparison to their white colleagues to take and be able to pay for an AP exam in the spring. This research illustrates that there may be a systematic racial issue within the Groton Public Schools, and it goes on. So my question is, I would like to see part of this 5-year plan, starting with middle school and going into 9th grade, having a 5-year plan to bring up these numbers so that our AP, IB classes and honor classes depict what our racial makeup looks like. So I'm hoping you could somehow include this in your document, that we need to really come up with a plan that we start encouraging these children, whether it's our guidance counselors, but we really need to have this, because if you're not going to be able to take these rigorous college level programs, what are you going to be able to do later in life? So I really feel that we need to make the effort to get these students involved. So there is a teacher I'd like to be able to contact at the high school who helped organize the Fitch Newspaper Club. Her name is Rebecca Berry, and I'd love a copy of this report that the student is talking about. So anyway, I would like to see something concrete, and I'd also like to know what are the courses in the middle school and the high school in particular that really talk about racial inequality? What classes do we have that really make people think about systemic racism? So I don't know if we have any specifically in our history department, but we need to. So, and in the middle school.
Rita, I think your points are very important for us to really consider. I would argue to achieve those ends, the board has to be willing to establish a council or committee that would be the governance and show commitment and leadership in that area.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
So therefore,
Yep.
we would continually look at that data on a regular basis to be able
Mhm.
to identify gaps, as you said, what I typically like to call opportunity gaps. And then we would develop strategies at the district level, the school level, and then hopefully, at the teacher level to be able to address those areas. The data's out there, we know that.
Yep.
However, where we need to improve, because I think it's important that we do acknowledge we have done some great things in the district, and we will continue to do that. But where we need to improve is really looking at that data critically, not to point fingers, but to ask questions why, and then address those whys with strategic actions.
Right. And that's why we need to start having teachers connect with the students and guide them along.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, again, a way in which to do that, okay, is really look at our hiring practices. As we start to increase our students of color, those individuals now can provide voice within those meetings when they're talking about student performance. I'm not saying that doesn't happen now, but we need it to happen more frequently and more often. And with more students, more teachers of color, the statistics show that those conversations happen more frequently.
I still would like to see how we're going to help these students and encourage them to take these more difficult classes
Rita,
and
it
have
sounds
the
to me-
courses to back them up.
Right. And Rita, that sounds to me that what I hear Jamal and what I'm thinking is that comes from us, so that we set the
Right.
we set the bar. It's not Jamal's report. Not that
No,
you-
no,
it's
no. It's all teachers, administrators, and the Board of Education
Right.
to implement this.
but we set that bar.
Oh no, it's not the report. It's just I want to have something concrete to go along to have evidence that we are, that it's working.
I saw Liz.
Yeah, I was just wanted to support what Rita was saying, that we need to, this is a bottom up. We have to grow. And having taught IB, AP, UConn ECE for many years, yes, there is a racial disparity. But I think that one of the primary problems is that it comes from the support that students have had over the years, and we need to address that support. And I think we need to address it, and I'm sure it is being addressed through curriculum. So the curriculum development, and from what I see coming out, there's no quick fix. Is what I'm saying is that this is a situation that we need to continually address and to evaluate and adjust our practices. And I think that's what we're doing. So Jamal, it's an honor to be working with you. And Renita and I have actually become friends over this. I never knew Renita, right, Renita? I know you're there. So, but it's been very helpful. But we need to look at this with a critical eye, not an emotional one.
Jay.
I just want to clarify that a few years ago, when it was brought to our attention that students were not able to pay for their AP tests, we were assured that they were being paid for, and I just want to make sure that that policy has continued.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
And I also wanted to say, as Kim said, that I want to thank everyone who spent their summer working on this. I know a lot of organizations came out with a statement. I'm glad that we are committed to the long haul for a process because this is not a one-time thing. This is going to take the commitment of administrators and teachers and ourselves to make sure that we actually follow through with recommendations. So thank you very much.
My sense is that this is a marathon and not a sprint, right?
I think it is. You're right.
I wish Dr. Grenier, I'm sort of, and Susan, I'm sort of thinking about, like, I would love for us to like have a separate meeting where the board kind of comes up with looking at the mission statement and that came up from the DEI, not just the mission statement, but
The equity statement and mission
okay.
statement, yes.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Jamal.
Oh, no problem, no.
The thought process today is minimal.
I've been told I talk a lot, so I probably lost you a little bit there.
No, honey, you didn't. Actually, you didn't. I just lose me. Is that I think that the board needs to kind of take a look at that and make sure that that's what we want to own alongside of. Like, I just don't want it to be a blanket. Yeah, let's do it. And then the other part is that I want us to be thoughtful and mindful about what committees that we do develop to kind of begin to kind of look at that so that it marries with the plan, and that it's also sustainable, because this cannot be a feel good moment, folks, right? We are trying to do systemic change. And so I just want to make sure that the process, I know I'm all about a process, but the process makes sense and that we follow through. And so Dr. Grenier and Susan, I'm really kind of thinking that maybe the board just needs to sit with this for a couple of hours with each other and just kind of come up alongside with that. Were you telling me to stop? Are you waiting?
I was raising my hand.
Okay, Dr. Grenier's also. So Lee, what do you need? How can I help?
I think that I think that until we have a point where our students can look at teachers who look like them, and it's going to require a little resourcements for this. It's going to cost some money. And I hope that we're going to do it. I know that Lori was trying to do this when this all happened, with COVID. But I hope that we're going to actually start looking to find educators who look like our students.
Dr. Grenier?
Well, I was going to say, like you, I'm impressed with the report. It is a huge overview. I would like to propose that Susan and I meet with Mr. Davis, Miss Allen, and Miss Macklin. And I think of that as a kind of the balcony view. And I'd really like to put some immediate steps on the table for the board to consider. I often think if you have like 10 or 15 main goals, you probably don't have any. I'd really like to get this down to something that we would do perhaps before January, and then maybe something in the spring. And I know they've got this 5-year plan, and I think putting a concrete plan together for the fall would be a huge step. We've done some diversity training. We want to continue that, but I'd like to have them come back with a kind of a fairly limited but important few steps that we're going to take to realize this vision.
And I'd like to piggyback too from Dr. Grenier, because I think there's a couple things we can do very concretely. I think a few years back, we had talked about a guest speaker who had come to us, Valerie, and she actually presented for all of our teachers at the beginning of the school and was very well received. But we've also connected with CREC partners, and through one of our grants, we're able to establish a relationship with them for the year. And they've also been able to talk to our teachers about diversity, equity, inclusion, and race. And one of the books that we've chosen, or this committee has chosen, and so you want to talk about race? And we've purchased enough copies for all of our committee members, for all of our administrators, and for our board. And so I think it's a good place to start, because you kind of need a launching. You need kind of a jumping off point. And I love the idea, Kim. One of the things that the board has done over the years that I've been with you is you go on retreats and you take the time to discuss really important things. And this is definitely something to retreat on. So that's just my perspective.
I think that one of the things that I would like the board to do pretty quickly is to really review the equity statement, and as something that we would like to sort of have that become part of ours as well. That is on our agendas, specifically for for the regular board meeting. I don't want to, we can't say yay or nay tonight anyways, but I would like for each individual board member to kind of take a look at that and to see if that's something that we feel that we can not only own for this current board, but that it becomes the ground, it becomes the marching orders for the next group of people that come in, whoever our board members. But that's just my thought process. Andrea.
I wanted to congratulate everybody who worked on this equity committee. I was a part of it and I was so proud to be. And I would very much like to be, if there's going to be a board member on that committee that you talked about with Dr. Grenier and Susan and Jamal, I would very much like to be a part of that.
Yeah, we'd love to have you.
Okay, very well. Thank you.
I would love it if Andrea would wordsmith for us how we could include this for the Board of Education to be part of our mission statement and our goals.
That's something that I'm very happy to do. I think we really do need to have that meeting where we're a retreat where we talk about this, and maybe even to bite the bullet and do it in person. I think you need to be face to face and just feel things.
Yeah, that has been pretty difficult, I think, in order to do that.
Can I add something?
Rosemary,
It's Rosemary. I'm very impressed with the work that's going on, and I'm impressed that the board is taking this so seriously, and I'm thrilled to be part of this. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Rosemary. And Jamal, just could I have my name added to the community relations thing? I think I made almost every single meeting.
Community relations, yes, I will make sure that you are added to that. And I apologize that your name was omitted.
No, that's okay.
I knew you were on there. I just didn't know exactly why that wasn't put there. But we will make sure.
As long as I don't mind my name being in print as long as it's not in the obits or the police logs.
Well, the police logs, Kim, come on,
All right, so do we have any more questions or thoughts about the report? Because if not, I think we have a really great segue into our next conversation, which is, I think, adding on to about the fact that the board wants to, or in a sense that to be able to sort of address sort of what has happened to us or what has happened in the past week in terms of social media, putting something out for us to know about. And I know that many of us have wanted to kind of come up with a sort of a statement. I sort of feel like this DEI plan is part of our statement. And I know, Andrea, I always look for you when it comes to sort of wordsmithing. But I didn't know, folks, about where you wanted to go with just kind of making like a statement about sort of what we've experienced in the past week and a half, or past week, excuse me. So I know we wanted to talk about it, and we needed to be able to have that as an agenda item versus kind of talking about it offline. So that's why it's on.
Kim, point of clarification, please.
Absolutely.
Are you talking about item number 6?
Yes.
And is this dealing with the situation that we now find ourselves down one board member?
Yes.
No.
Okay. So my question first then, before we continue with this, and we go on, is this an official resignation?
So we do not have an official resignation as of yet. I mean, I didn't get anything in today's from the town clerk, which is what the process is. For me, it was more about, and I'm not about wanting to demonize or villainize anyone, because I don't feel that that's in a place for us to be. But we do now have this wonderful opportunity. I think, Jamal, you courageous a courageous, collaborative way that we could kind of take this and say, we got work to do, folks. And that's why we're sort of really embracing this whole concept around the DEI. But I know that many of us wanted to have a statement that kind of talked about the fact that, you know, like this, yep, this happened, and we thank you for the community support. But that it just goes to show that there's lots of work that needs to be done around understanding anti-racist language and behavior. But I didn't want to be the one that said that this is what we had to say. I think we needed to hear input. I would love to ask Aunt Andrea to kind of give it a wordsmith look once she hears about everyone's ideas. But I wanted to make sure that the board had an apple. This is our first time that we've gotten together since what has happened. Jamal.
Yes, if I could just share in terms of the process that we are currently going through in the district at all levels. The first process, again, when we talk about year one, is education. It's a key concept, which is critical consciousness. And critical consciousness is basically defined as the beginning to self-reflect, to acknowledge that inequalities do exist, to acknowledge that we do unfortunately live in a racialized world, and that you don't just stop there, that then you take action to fix that. So that could be individually, that can be structurally. And so what I would say to the board at this process is that, you know, with what has transpired locally and nationally, it's important to really reflect and again ask that critical question of why. Why are these things happening? Why do people struggle with recognizing that inequalities do exist, knowing that fully that we live in a racialized world. Now, that living in a racialized world is no fault of anyone here, but we still have to acknowledge it to move forward. And so I think what the equity statement, what you're saying, the equity statement does, it begins that process of self-reflection, but also it's that critical consciousness, because not only is that self-reflection, it's putting action into words and then becomes a guiding principle. So that is just a model. It's not necessarily what you have to adopt. However, I would argue that in any equity statement that we do adopt, that the board does adopt, it needs to be clear and explicit and not vague, because you don't want people when they are interpreting it and trying to interpret it, they're coming up with different interpretations. So it has to be clear of what the focus is, because that is going to be the guiding principle of all the work that you're going to, the district and the board is going to be doing from this point on.
Thank you, Jamal. Any thoughts?
Tim, I'm sorry, I'm confused. I'm sorry, Lee, but I just want to clarify, okay?
Yeah, I do too.
Is this a statement that we want to make based concerning what has transpired in this last week, or is this the development of our equity statement? Because I'm getting two reads here, so.
My original intent with the agenda item was this was the first time that the board had a chance to get together after what we experienced over the past week. And that what did the board want to do about what has happened, and how do we want to proceed, and do we want to have a statement?
Regarding that situation?
Right. However, does it have to be about that situation, or really is it about how the board wants to move forward around diversity, equity, and inclusion? Because my fear is if that we go back to what has happened and what we all experienced, we're staying here. And that really what the reason why we're doing all of this stuff with a 5-year plan plus is that we're trying to move our district forward. So if I, not trying to be snotty, but in a sense, the answer is yes to both of those questions. Yes, it's about what we've experienced because there's so much out in the media about this. And two, it's kind of about we're in the midst of beginning to put our feet on a stronghold around understanding anti-racist language and behavior.
This is also an excellent opportunity to start with the step one of the program, which is education. And we need to have a very specific, coordinated statement about the issue. So it's actually even includes education. Hello?
Yeah, no, Rosemary, sorry. I'm sorry. We heard you.
Oh, good. Okay.
So I guess the question is, does the board want to have a statement about what we experienced last week?
Yes, I think so.
I have a question.
Yes, Lee.
This is the first time that we as a group of our people have talked to each other about this.
That's correct.
I think that we need to do that.
Yes.
Before we come up with language or what it is we want to talk about, I think that I would like to talk to my other board members. And I think we are definitely, it is time for a retreat.
Yes, I agree.
None of us have talked to each other yet. At least I have not.
No.
So, I think, first of all, we can't vote on anything anyway, but I would like to see if there is a consensus that we would like to talk as a board about what we want to do. That's what I think. Period, Dot.
I agree with Lee.
I think we're talking about two different issues. And
I think we are too.
Yeah, I think that we need to, Lee is correct. We need to get together and talk about each of these two things. And I think we have to get the more, I don't want to say the more pressing. I don't mean that. I mean, we have to get the one that's more.
The elephant in the room?
Well,
I'm
perhaps
sorry.
that's the word.
Well, it is.
But anyway,
Yeah.
that's where I'm.
Yep.
So the reality is that we're not going to be able to have a conversation about sort of what we experience and sort of debrief each other, because I think that would have to be sort of an executive session, and you have to understand. And
what are the parameters of an executive session? Is this something that we could speak about in executive session? What are the parameters?
Yes. So
all right. Okay.
So you can talk about personnel matters in executive session, and the person, if it's a personnel issue, then the person, like if you're going to have a personnel issue about me, I would have to be given the right to be able to have this executive session within public or within an executive session with me present. That's the parameter of the executive session.
What if the question was not about an individual, but about freedom of speech and the responsibility that goes along with freedom of speech? I cherish the idea of freedom of speech, but I also understand the consequences of it, the responsibilities of it, and maybe that's what we should be talking about instead of talking about an individual.
We're not talking.
I have no interest in talking about any individual. in a public thing like that. That's just not okay. And I wouldn't tolerate that. Once again, I put this in as an agenda topic because this is our first time being able to talk about that, talk about sort of what we experience in social media and lots of texts and lots of emails that have been sent to us. And so I wanted to give ourselves the chance to do that, and also to ask the question, does the board want to have a unified statement about what we experienced? Or are we going to sort of move on and also know that we are going to be having these larger conversations around diversity, equity, and inclusion, and whether that's going to be, and that in itself is going to be a statement. Dr. Grenier, were you swatting at flies or?
No flies. I would want anyone who's watching this meeting to know that we planned this meeting at least in early August, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Davis. We said we were going to do the committee's work, and the committee was going to report out at the first COW meeting. My thought is that the board has through this report, through commissioning this 100-person committee, has spoken loud and clear and has made their intention to move forward very clear, crystal clear to me. And I think from my perspective, the board is following the right process. The board over the last week has acted in unison. Some of that was planned in executive session, but right now, I think the board is, somebody said there are some districts that are making statements which are nice to read, but this board, not starting tonight, starting years ago, but this board is on the ground floor of what I think is really a game, as we often, Jamal and I talk about this. This is a game changer. And we've got a 5-year plan here, and I think the board is speaking with one voice, and I am proud to be part of it. But I think it's very clear what we're saying. So for me, that's my statement, and that's been my statement since Mr. Floyd was killed, and I have been so proud of this board, and we've moved forward very clearly with our actions. I don't feel a need for a statement. I think the statement has been made tonight.
I think so too, Mike. I do.
Jim, we can say anything. You have to look at what we do. And if you go back historically, we already have a grounding in where we want to go. There are so many initiatives that have happened, getting rid of the basic courses at the high school, expanding the middle school programs. Now we've got 6 through 12 in International Baccalaureate. There are just so many things that have happened under Dr. Grenier's watch and even before. So we have a basis to begin on. So we need to move forward. And I agree with Dr. Grenier and with you, Kim. We need to put this behind us and really look at what's important. What's important is, what are we going to do for kids? Whenever we have a Dr. Martin Luther King meeting, board meeting, we always start with a reflection from Dr. King. And whenever it's my turn to do the reflection, everybody knows what it's going to be. The reflection is, where do we go from here? And I think that's what we have to meet and decide upon. That's all. There's no more.
Amen, sister.
Once again, I wanted to be able to make sure that we had some way of kind of coming together and saying, how do we want to respond to this event? And do people feel like it's important that we do a response, or is our actions, is it by what we do? Is that how we respond? And so once again, it needed to be a board decision. Jay.
So I agree with Dr. Grenier and Dr. Ackerman. We need to just stay on the course and continue to implement these practices to make sure that our students and their families and our community know that we respect them and we want to hear their voices. And so I think we just need to move forward in that regard. And I think lessons have been learned, but I'm not sure that we need to state the obvious, especially about a member who is no longer on the board.
Well, she still is on the board. I
Yeah.
have a question.
Lee, I'm going to go to Jane because she has not spoken. And then just for the order, it's going to be Jane, Lee, and then Rosemary.
Okay.
But Jane, you need to unmute.
We need to think back. Did I get it? We need to think back to the old saying, actions speak louder than words. So we need not beat the dead horse, or however that goes. I think we're on the right track.
Thank you, Jane. Lee?
Yeah, does it, I think it would be wonderful if the Day newspaper were told about our DEI committee. I don't think that Kim, who's at the Day, is aware of the work that Jamal and the rest of us have done for the past 6 months, 5-6 months. And I think I think that Jamal and Mike might be good to talk to Kim about this committee. And which happened long before what happened last week.
Yes, I'll call her tomorrow.
Thank you. That'd be great.
Be very interested.
Rosemary?
I agree with Lee. I think we do need to make a statement, but it doesn't have to be a negative statement about any member or former member. It needs to be a positive statement.
Absolutely.
About the direction that we're going in, and
yes,
and what we support.
Yes.
So.
All right, folks, thank you. I'm glad that we were able to finally kind of come together. Sorry it's not in person, but it's at least we were able to have a conversation. Dr. Grenier, I am going to ask that you begin the conversation about our added agenda item, which is about the lawsuit. And if you could just update us on what's happening.
Sure. We received a phone call in early August telling us that the Federal Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights had determined they wanted to know if Fitch High School athletes competed against transgender athletes, and we told them that we did not have any transgender athletes, nor did any of our competing schools. But they asked us if it was our intention to follow Connecticut state law and the CIAC rules, and we of course said yes. And then on the 3rd of September, we received a phone call saying that the Office of Civil Rights had determined, the Federal Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights had determined that because we allow transgender athletes to compete, female transgender athletes to compete in Connecticut, in the CIAC, that was a violation of the grant. It's a grant, by the way, that Wern has for the Regional Multicultural Magnet School, and has for its, and Norwich Public Schools is also involved, as well as New Haven Public Schools and CREC in consortium with Enfield. So right now we are waiting for the Assistant Secretary of Education. Her name is Kim Ritchie. For her to certify or not certify And if she does not certify, we would lose $704,000 to pay for this year's program and $704,000 to pay for next year's program. And however, we have joined together with Michelle Lobin, who is a member of the Bertram Moses law firm, is also working with Shipman Goodwin attorney named Linda Yoder. She's representing CIAC. So there's a consortium of attorneys that are coming together to try to block this. I also was on the phone today with Congressman Courtney's staff. Congressman Courtney, along with all the other members of the Connecticut delegation, are writing a letter tomorrow, I believe, to the Secretary of Education saying that, number one, they think it is unfair to tell a school system a matter of days before a fiscal year that they need the money. Number two, they have not followed the appropriate process for the Administrative Procedures Act. Number three, we believe, although Connecticut is not the only state that allows transgender females to compete, we believe Connecticut is the only state that is being held accountable for what they perceive to be this violation. So there's an organization called Lambda Legal that has sent us an agreement that our lawyers have looked at, and it basically says they're willing to sign on pro bono, at least provisionally. The board can always withdraw. It's an organization that actually supports transgender individuals, and they see this as part of their central mission. So we would have their efforts. I know the U.S. Attorney has also, the Connecticut U.S. Attorney has weighed in, and he is trying to contact the Federal Education Department Office of Civil Rights. And I received a call from the New York Times this evening. The Times is going to do a report on this. People are very concerned about this selective enforcement, last minute, and what the Secretary of Education plans to do in the next 2 weeks is to allocate that money to other institutions and deny. We asked if they could just hold off on that until it was adjudicated, and they said no. So we're not exactly sure what's going on, but I think the next big development will be the letter from the Connecticut delegation. I spoke with them on Friday, all the staff members of the congressman, and I think we're going to have a strong statement. But the education department has taken the extraordinary step of changing the regulations, because these were not the regulations that we were informed of in April. They specifically said this is not policy. We are not changing the regulation. And then they changed it on the 31st of August and contacted us the first week of September. So this is going to become public, and it's potentially it's a huge loss. As I said to the congressional staffers, this is a budget that started on July 1st for us. So this is this year's budget. We're not talking about a future budget that could be endangered. We're talking about this budget, and this budget includes the salaries of all of the magnet coordinators that we have. It also includes $250,000 for buses to support the magnet school students going around town. So this is in the middle of everything else. This is a real threat to the district, and I'm so disappointed that we can't seem to get, and what I should have said, I didn't say for the public's benefit. They offered a deal on the 4th of September that we could get the grant if we withdrew from all interscholastic competition. So we'd have to have the Fitch athletes, who of course have nothing to do with the middle school, but the Fitch athletes would have to drop out of all sports, which of course we didn't agree with. So
Jay.
that's where we are.
Jay?
Okay, so I'm confused because this started last week in executive session. We were told we couldn't discuss any of it. So is everything we discussed last week now on the table?
Yes, because it's become public. And
Okay,
the other districts, New Haven
So-
already reported it.
so there's a federal lawsuit pending.
Federal District Court, that's
Yeah,
right.
because these regulations weren't published.
No, the federal,
properly.
excuse me, the Federal District Court, no, that's part of our challenge. The Federal District Court is that the non-transgender female athletes sued under Title IX.
Title IX, right, okay. But the point is, it's still, they promulgated regulations without properly advertising and going through the
That's
procedure.
right.
So there's multiple causes of action underlying this. My point is, are they going to go for the TRO?
What's
What
a
is the
TRO?
Are they going to go to the federal judge? I mean, again, we discussed this all last week. It was
Yeah.
secretive. Are we allowed to discuss it tonight?
But
Yeah.
it wasn't really.
Well, yeah, our strategy was
We're gonna-
supposed to be,
We're going to wait for if there's a denial, Jay,
yeah,
we're hoping that the congressional input will allow cooler heads to prevail.
okay.
But yes, if we are denied the grant, it is the intention of our co-counsels to pursue an injunction.
Okay, and then did she ever come up with the proposed budget for a case that could make its way all the way up to the Supreme Court?
She didn't have it.
No, but we have.
Well, she's had a weekly. I'm asking if there's an update.
Mhm.
We have this law firm pro bono, Jay, that's willing to support it. I haven't gotten that from her. I'll get it and I'll get the word to you tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
I know Liz, you got a question, but Dr. Grenier, the reason why this is now public is because another district
That's right.
made it public.
That's right.
So we were doing the correct thing last week, which was to do an executive session, but it was another district that brought this out public.
That's correct.
Dr. Grenier,
Sure.
what if we signed that paper and just did what we wanted to do and have our students participate?
No, that's dishonest.
Well, it's sign I think that offer is off the table.
Okay, it's off the table. Just to get the money and just have our students participate and ignore. You can't do that.
That thought occurred to me, to be truthful.
Well, yes, I mean, it's what the present administration is doing and federally, so.
Yeah. But we thought, they actually wanted the vote of the board, and I said that, well, first of all, they wanted the vote of the board on the 4th of September, and I said, I can't even talk to the board until Monday, the 8th. So I think that's off the table now.
Okay. So, Dr. Grenier, how could you, send to the board exactly what we would lose for that 700,000? I mean, I'd like to really see it in writing so that we would, could understand and the public would understand.
Right. Okay.
Especially with our new middle school.
Yeah, it's all middle school money. It of course has nothing to do with the high school, but it's all middle school. Yeah, sure.
Right. And also, the regional multicultural magnet school in New London loses 300,000 for their early years IB program, and the Norwich middle schools are 300,000. But we're the ones who are really affected with the 700,000.
Yes.
And next year also, correct?
Yes, next year also. That's right.
Yeah.
It's about 1.5 million for Groton.
Yes.
We can't absorb that. There's just no way we can absorb that.
Of course not.
No, absolutely.
Of course, wait a second. Of course we could absorb that, but we would be cutting our educational program to the bare bones. So absolutely, we could absorb it. we could absorb it. But then people would then have to be able to be okay with what our educational system that we have worked so hard and got what we thought was like, I mean, like if this was the first year monies, I would say, ugh, but this is year 4 and 5. Sorry.
You're right, Kim,
But
you're
Liz,
right.
but Liz, the reality is that, yeah, we could absorb it, but it,
But what I meant, Kim, was that, yeah, we couldn't absorb it in terms of keeping the status quo of what we have.
that's correct.
Okay, so I want to clarify my statement.
That's for sure.
If we lose this money, our status quo is gone. And we would have to totally redo our whole system, just basically, because that's a whole lot of money. And, but that's
And
what
how
I
many
meant.
people, right, and how many people would lose their jobs
That's
in the
right.
middle of the year? How would we handle that?
Right. Yeah.
With COVID.
So Dr. Grenier, what are our steps tonight?
Well, I think I will share with you the letter from the congressional delegation. Congressman Courtney's office has been calling weekly. Michelle Laubin is meeting with the New Haven board tonight. The next big step for us is hopefully to have the Assistant Secretary of Education know what the consequences are going to be, and she would certify that we are supporting the civil rights. I said to the Times guy today, it's so ironic. This is a grant that was to hopefully to bring these two middle schools together and bring a socioeconomic and racial integration and so forth, and it is being, and we are being accused of violating the civil rights of students, which
Betsy
of course
DeVos.
I don't agree with. Yeah, it seems the timeline is so short. That's the problem.
Right.
We have 2 weeks. This ball game is over on the 30th.
Is there a downside about having a group of people who are attorneys who are wanting to work pro bono on this with us? Is there a downside to that?
No, I don't believe so.
They've been around for a long time.
I mean, I'm not actually being silly. I'm actually like,
Yeah.
is there a downside about having us agree to work as a, as a board, of allowing them to work for the district good?
Well, I think you would want to look at the organization and make sure these, like with any attorney, you want to make sure that their ethics and their goals align with the board's. I think there would be a number of very fine organizations and attorneys that would take this pro bono. If this goes where I think it's going to go, it will go from district court to the Second Circuit Court in New York, and from the second, potentially, to the Supreme Court. And I actually don't, I don't think the financial impact would be huge for the board, because I think this would, I mentioned to Kim last week, I subscribed to The Economist magazine, which is a British journal. And this was one of the lead stories in the British Journal about Connecticut and the CIAC and the transgender issue.
Really?
So I think this is going to be a national, if not international, issue. Yeah.
Kim, when
Yeah.
I was at the Learn meeting, the executive director at Learn said that she's hearing from other rests that this is not only happening to Connecticut, but that there are 17 states in the District of Connecticut that have passed these transgender female athlete, rules.
Yeah.
And
District
I just
of Connecticut?
No,
District
Columbia.
of Columbia.
Yeah, DC.
And the 17 states
Yeah,
have all
DC.
passed similar, and DC have
Right.
all passed similar
Yes.
laws. And I would like to know, maybe have Learn just sort of reach out to see if any other states have been
Yeah.
contacted.
Okay.
Did you do that, Rita? I mean, as a,
Well, Mike can just call Kate and ask her.
Yeah, I'm writing a note. I'll call Kate and we'll find out.
Because that's very important for an article or anything else that's going on,
Yep.
to make sure we get it right.
are other districts signing in with this Lambda organization?
That I don't know. I can find out tomorrow. I think New Haven is talking about it tonight.
What information does the district need to know about this organization?
We can look at it.
Well, I can send, I'll share with you the document. I mean, we don't have to sign it tonight, certainly. But I'll send you the doc. It's an organization that supports transgender individuals, LGBTQ individuals.
Yeah.
So this is definitely the committee of the whole that has diversity, equity, and inclusion all
Sure.
in
Yep.
all in its agenda.
Yep.
I didn't even plan it.
I'll find out tomorrow and I'll report how many other districts signed on.
Okay. What other information do we need to have that Dr. Grenier can go and seek? I don't know, but I mean, are we wanting to move forward with this and
It's happening.
I would say also when we talk to Congressman Courtney, Mike, if you find out at a national level who this is happening to beyond Connecticut, we're hearing that it's only Connecticut, and that might be true, but it could be wider than this. And it would not surprise me if the federal government tried to find out who had these policies and laws in what states.
Yeah. I'll find out. Courtney's chief of staff is a Fitch graduate, as you know.
Yes.
So Yanti Grant.
Yanti.
I don't know if you remember Yanti Grant. She's a very capable young woman, but I'll find out about the national.
So what would this mean if we, if they reallocate the money to someplace else?
That's
and
what
we
she
don't
will do.
receive it? No,
Yeah,
I know that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, what does it mean for us immediately in October?
We would have to reallocate, as Kim said. We'd have to reallocate. I'll give you the breakdown tomorrow, but we'd have to reallocate that money and take it from other aspects, other areas of the budget.
Of course.
Or would we rethink of some of the coordinators? Or
right, we could do that. Sure, we could. Yeah, I'm sort of hoping that this is not going to come to the conflict. The other thing I said to the reporter was, we live in a civil society that's ruled by laws, and we have ways to solve conflicts. I'm not saying there's not a conflict here, but there's a way to solve the conflict, and courts are that way. That's the vehicle for conflict resolution in a law-abiding society. And the federal education department seems to have lost that picture.
Yep.
They're circumventing the system, and we need
Yeah.
to hold them
Yeah,
accountable back to it.
Really
Been
undermining.
going on for 4 years.
Okay, let's not get into a political thing. Let's just kind of try
But
to.
you know it's true.
Any other questions?
What can we do, Mike, personally? Do you want us to get a letter writing campaign going? What do you want?
Yeah, I think we need to wait for the decision. Then we'll file the appeal, and then maybe there is some political pressure we could bring to bear on the appeal.
Okay. So just wait.
Yeah, just wait. I'll let
Okay.
you know as soon as I hear anything.
All right.
All right.
Is it time?
very, very distressing.
So I'm
Yes.
moving down to
Referrals.
referral list, and then also future topics. And I know that there's a couple that some people want to add. So did people look over the referral list?
Yeah.
So haven't we done any of these policies?
Yes, we met today. We will bring it to the board.
We even have cursive writing coming up. I'm happy. to
No,
announce.
it wasn't.
It's going to curriculum instruction first.
I'm
Oh,
trying
we
to figure out.
discussed that today.
So we're gonna, so for agenda topics, Jay, did you have a couple?
Yes, I don't know if anybody had time to read the email I sent or read the article in the day about
did.
Norwich Public Schools. So I'm curious what our current procedure is for verifying residency
Yeah.
and whether, you know, we need to look into how Norwich is enforcing their policy. You know, the article mentions it's painful, but it's only right to the taxpayers that students from the district are attending, especially when it comes to special ed. And the superintendent there said that people seek out their special education. And so that's something I'd like to discuss, see how we're doing it now and do we need to do anything different? And
I like it too.
yeah. And then,
Jay,
I'm sorry?
Jay, do you see that to go into finance and facilities? Do you want to have it come back up into, do you want to have it as a committee of the whole?
I was wondering if
We have a policy, and I think we should take a look at the policy.
okay. And I just,
It can happen simultaneously, but we can look at the policy.
Sure.
maybe you could discuss what are the, I mean, her indication in Norwich was that they weren't doing anything when she got there. So in other words, maybe we need to hear what we're doing first and
We'd be happy to share with you.
yeah. So, and then the other thing is, and I know this sounds very trivial when you consider everything else going on right now, but so I know at one time we talked about getting rid of snow days years ago. Now that we have a distance learning program set up, you know, has the state basically, state never allowed us to do this in the past, but can we now cancel snow days and just pivot to distance learning on a snow day? And if you don't know the answer, can we at least discuss the possibility?
Yes. We are talking to the commissioner about this, and it's really a State Board of Education decision. I think every superintendent in the state would 100% agree.
Right.
That if there's a snow day or a huge heat day, for some schools, it's a mess.
Or like what?
Remote learning when we needed the 4 extra days for the middle school. We just did it.
Right.
That's what I did with Mary Morrison.
And Mary Morrison, right.
Mary Morrison. Yeah.
I just did it.
I say let's just do it.
So is that, so then does that mean that we need to wait for the Connecticut to come up? I mean, like, where do we go with your agenda topic, Jay?
Well, maybe Dr. Grenier can just check with Floyd and see if.
Yeah, I'll report to you.
Right.
Okay.
We even have the conversation about if a child is not able to come to school, they're not feeling well, but they're able to do all their work and Zoom in, shouldn't that count for a remote day? As the child's not absent, they're doing their work, they're coming, you know, but they're being very safe in this time, day and age, and I think that's wise.
So do we need to reevaluate attendance policies? I mean, have you done that already?
We're actually working on that with this remote learning as we speak. We're waiting for that addendum for attendance. We've gotten an addendum on everything. But not attendance. So I got a call in with the State Department right as we speak. So
thank you.
Waiting to hear.
So Susan, do you mean that if a student or a teacher or an aide has to quarantine for 2 weeks, if they've come in contact, but they're at home doing their work, it still counts as being in attendance, correct?
I think those are two different things. I was speaking about it. We had a couple kids today who weren't able to come in. They weren't feeling well and their parents kept them home, but they still were able to connect with the teacher and do the mini lesson and do the work. And so they were the principals were asking, this should count, you know? So.
Yeah, it should count.
In your case, Rita, for sure, it's an executive order. They have to stay home for 14 days. personnel are being paid and students should be able to do remote.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
great. Thank you.
Rita, did anyone else have any other agenda topics?
Can I just piggyback on something though? When you talk about the attendance policy, this came up a few years ago when I was doing stuff at the high school. If a teacher is, let's say, has a child home, sick child at home, but can do Zoom lessons, would that count as a day that she's able to be, or he's able to be a teacher and not count against them in terms of attending in school? You know,
So it
do you
sounds to me
understand what
like-
I'm saying?
Right. So that sounds like that's a really good agenda topic. I don't want to have
Okay.
a conversation about
Right.
that. That is actually, and Susan is looking into that. So maybe at some point we can kind of piggy that into either a board note where it gets stated out what that is, or we have a discussion about it. But that's a really good thing. I want to be careful that we don't go into a conversation about that.
Okay.
Right.
Anything else?
Is it time? Motion to adjourn.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, aye, aye.
Abstained. We're done. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. See you all
Take
next
care.
week.
Feel
Looking
good,
What
Kim.
thinks this is boring is not paying attention. So this looks great, Mark. You look like some sort of NASA astronaut there. That's very impressive.